You've probably heard the word jihad a million times, right? But what if I told you its meaning in the original text is completely different from how it's often used today? We're going to dig into what the Quran itself says. We'll look at 4 specific words that, believe it or not, fit together like puzzle pieces to create a whole system for thinking about conflict and peace.
All right, so let's just jump right in with a big one. The question that's probably on your mind. What does jihad really mean? Not what we hear on the news, but according to the actual text where the word comes from.
Okay, check this out. The first thing that jumps out from the text is pretty wild. The Quran actually uses the root word for jihad to describe, get this, parents nagging their kids. Yeah, parents striving to change their child's beliefs. And in another spot, the greatest striving is defined as debating and engaging with the Quran itself. So right off the bat, we know this word has to be about way more than just physical combat.
So to really get this, you can't just look at one word by itself. It's like trying to understand a car by only looking at the steering wheel. We need to look at 4 key terms that are all connected: jihad, Sillm, Fitnah, and Qital. And don't think of this as just a vocabulary list. These words actually work together. They're part of a single logical system.
All right, so let's build this from the ground up. First, we have to figure out what the Quran considers, the factory settings. What's the default state of being? Well, according to the text, it's a combination of 2 things: a constant ongoing effort and a fundamental goal of peace.
So let's start with jihad again. The actual root of the word, JHD, literally means to pour everything you've got into achieving a goal. It's about total exertion, full capacity. So it's not a single action, it's more like a continuous state of striving. This could be an intellectual struggle, a social one, or a deeply personal one.
And here's a perfect example of that. The Quran itself talks about a great striving, a jihadan kabiran. And what's the tool for this great striving? A sword? Nope. It says to strive with it, referring to the Quran. It's basically framing the biggest, most important kind of jihad as an intellectual, moral debate using the power of the message itself.
Okay, so that's one half of our baseline. The other half is a word called Sillm. And what's fascinating is that it shares the exact same root as the word Islam. And Sillm doesn't just mean, not fighting. It's a much bigger idea. It means wholeness, safety, soundness, basically a state of complete integrity. And the text presents this as the natural, ideal way things should be.
And this isn't just like a friendly tip, it's a direct command. The verse says, "O you who have believed, enter into Sillm completely." Not halfway, but completely. So the big takeaway here is that the Quran is setting up this all-encompassing peace, not just as a nice idea, but as the default setting for life.
Okay, so if the normal state of affairs is this constant striving within a framework of total peace, what could possibly break that? What justifies disrupting that baseline? Well, the text is very specific about this. It points to one particular condition that acts as a trigger.
And that trigger is a word called fitnah. Now, this isn't your everyday argument or disagreement. Fitnah, as the Quran describes it, is something much more severe. It's organized, active persecution. It's a kind of societal chaos or coercion that literally stops people from being able to live according to their own conscience.
And to show you just how serious this is, the text makes a really shocking claim. It says that fitnah, this kind of systemic oppression, is actually worse than killing. Now, why would it say that? Well, you could argue that killing takes one life, but fitnah destroys the very freedom to live a meaningful, principled life for everyone.
This visual really lays it out. Think of fitnah as the red line. It's that critical threshold. It's the one specific condition, active, organized persecution, that has to be crossed before the system allows for a switch from that default state of peace to a state where, okay, a physical response is now on the table.
So what happens then? How does the text talk about that physical response? Well, once that line of fitnah is crossed, the Quran starts using a totally different word. Not jihad, a new word for fighting that comes with its own very strict and very limited rulebook. And that word is Qital. Its root, QTL, is super clear. Every time it's used, it means one thing and one thing only: physical combat. Killing. There's no ambiguity. It's not a metaphor for an internal struggle. It's a specific, concrete action for a specific situation. And it's completely separate from that big, broad idea of jihad. And honestly, this is the whole point. The Quran uses different words because it's talking about different concepts. This isn't some modern interpretation we're forcing onto the text. The distinction is right there, built into the very language it uses.
Let's just break this down side by side. You've got jihad, constant, lifelong, a huge scope, intellectual, social, personal. Then you've got Qital, temporary, situational, and a scope that is strictly limited to physical defense. You can't swap one for the other. They're two different categories entirely.
So, if you want the simple version, it's this. Jihad is the permanent marathon of life. Qital is a temporary, defensive sprint you only run as a last resort. And as you can see, the text even gives it an on-ramp, being attacked, and a clear off-ramp, a strict command not to go too far, not to transgress.
Which, of course, brings up the next big question. If this Qital, this fighting, is only meant to be temporary, how do you stop it? What's the off switch? What flips the system back to peace?
And the answer the text gives is incredibly simple and direct. It says that if the other side, the aggressors, just lean towards peace, the word is incline, then you have to lean that way too. It doesn't say you need to sign treaty, it doesn't say you need to be sure they're sincere, a simple gesture is enough.
So here's the bottom line. An offer of peace is the immediate unconditional off switch. The second that hand is extended, the justification for Qital is gone. It just evaporates. The fighting has to stop, period.
All right, we've looked at all the individual gears and levers. Now let's zoom out and watch how they all click together and run as one single elegant system.
And you'll see it all comes full circle, right back to peace. That root, S-L-A-M, that gives us the word for peace, Sillm. It's the exact same root for the word Islam. That's a huge clue. It suggests that peace, this wholeness, isn't just the finish line, it's the very DNA of the entire system.
So here it is, the whole flowchart in 4 simple steps. 1. Your baseline is peace and striving. That's jihad within Sillm. 2. That baseline gets shattered by a very specific trigger, active persecution or fitnah. 3. This allows for a temporary defensive response, Qital, with one goal and one goal only, stop the fitnah. And 4. The second an offer of peace is on the table, the fighting stops, and you snap right back to the baseline. That's the whole loop.
And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. What we've seen is that the source text lays out a really clear, logical system. It has precise definitions, clear triggers, and a built-in off switch. So, if the lines in the book itself are this clear, why in the world outside the book is there so much confusion? Why do we so often mix up this idea of a lifelong great striving with the act of war?